Welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. My name is Jodelle, as usual, and I am ready to have you move today. So that's why I'm kind of like down on the floor and on a mat. This podcast will actually get you up and moving because you're going to want to try these moves to see if you can do them. And if you're listening on iTunes, be sure to at some point tune in on the YouTube version of this podcast so you can watch and try these amazing functional natural moves. I brought on someone who I am so intrigued with after discovering his form of movement, and it's called Jiu Jitsu Flo. Now, I have no formal training whatsoever in Jiu Jitsu or any sort of martial arts other than some cardio kickboxing as a fitness instructor. And so I never thought I would have an interest in Jiu Jitsu until I stumbled across Ari Goldman. And his moves make me want to move more. And I love the challenge of the moves, but also the accessibility. So no matter where you are in fitness, you can do these moves because he breaks them down so beautifully. So Ari Goldman, founder and creator of Jiu Jitsu Flo, a type of solo body movements that increase strength, mobility, body coordination, and control of breath, which if you know me, I'm all about breathing too. Breathing is so key to our health. And then these moves are kind of coined through self-defense and sports-based movements. And as women, self-defense is something that is a healthy movement we should all be doing because we really have to protect ourselves in today's world. So if you're dealing with injuries, if you're afraid of getting injured, if you're feeling intimidated when you walk into like a martial arts studio or any kind of fitness studio, and just looking to increase mobility, flexibility, and longevity in movement, Jiu Jitsu Flo is your new go-to movement. It's an alternative way to experience some of the benefits of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and it offers self-confidence and new skill acquisition, and also community. It brings community together, and that's what I wanted to do today, was have Ari on. So after all that, Ari, welcome, and can you briefly tell us how you got into this form of movement, and exactly what is Jiu Jitsu Flo?
Of course. Amazing intro first off, and thank you for having me. So I've been training Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for about 8 years now, and it's a self-defense. It's like a grappling-based self-defense. It has had a huge effect on my life, and there's so many benefits to it. But the Jiu-Jitsu Flo aspect of it is something that's just helped me on my Jiu-Jitsu journey. I'm basically taking the movements of Jiu-Jitsu and breaking them down to solo movements. So you don't need any partner, you don't need equipment or anything. And it's just a great way to learn how to move efficiently, learn self-defense aspects, and meditate, a lot of different benefits to it. But that's it. But the Jiu-Jitsu, like what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is, it's a martial arts, and a lot of people say it's a way of life because it's super addicting. And anybody that I know that's actually gotten into it, they fall in love. And there's no requirements to it. There's people that start training as kids. There's people that start training literally in their 80s. There's people in wheelchairs that are training. There's people that are blind that are training. So it literally is for everybody, and the benefits are endless. So
yeah, and like I said, I had no interest in any form of martial arts until I stumbled across your work, and when I started seeing some of these moves that you use as a warm-up for some of your grappling sessions and stuff like that, I was like, these moves are not just about jiu-jitsu. These are like functional. I need to learn how to get off the floor and keep doing that for life. And these moves are like, I need to get my hips below my knees and get that nice third world squat going on that so many countries do that Americans and Western people don't do. And so when I came across it, I'm like, I want to integrate these into my classes because it's functional. It's natural human movement is what you're doing. But also it's self-defense, which is so important. For example, I go out 5:30 in the morning, and I have this altitude training mask on. I'm trying to train my lungs for altitude. And so I go out. It's dark out when I'm out walking. And so I'm always thinking in my mind, like, what would I do if somebody, grabbed me from behind a tree right now, And so thinking about that and going through your little moves on your channel, I was like, I need to reach out to him and find out, like, more than just about, going to a jiu-jitsu class. What can these moves do for someone, or what have you seen in people's lives that's really transformed them with some of these really functional moves?
So, okay, as far as the movements for the martial art aspect and the self-defense aspect, Jiu-Jitsu is all about efficiency, leverage, that's it, being as efficient as possible, and how that translates in the self-defense realm is giving people the ability who are weaker, smaller, not as athletic, to defend themselves and excel against the stronger, bigger person, okay? But it's all based on the efficiency of the movements that are taught in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. So the individual movements, just as a whole, they help in whether you train jiu-jitsu as a sport or self-defense or not, the efficiency factor is still there and can help in everyday life. So learning how to stand up properly, right? I watched I have two older brothers, and they're both like really athletic, and we played sports our whole lives, and I've played a lot of different sports throughout my life, so I'm around people that know how to move, but when I actually watch them not on the field or not on the court and just kind of watch how they're moving, sitting up, sitting down, and it's not as efficient as it could be. And so I'll show you an example, all right? So, if we're sitting down, we're hanging out, and you want to get up, a lot of times I'll watch people, and they're just like this weird, kind of sitting up like this, and it's aching, and that movement right there is really hard for a lot of people as well. And just sitting down properly can be uncomfortable. So there's efficient ways to stand up in jiu-jitsu that you're taught where you utilize body distribution and weight distribution properly. For example, this is a self-defense technical stand-up where it's a really easy way to stand up, and it might take a second to learn how to do it, but when you break it down and stand up and sit down, it makes a lot of sense. And then you take these movements that help with efficiency in your day-to-day life, and you turn it into a workout. And different mobility movements. So we're here, we're standing up, we're back down, we switch, we're up, we're down, and we can go back and forth and just turn into a really nice movement to help with. I love doing these movements first thing in the morning. I mean, I'm in my 30s now, and things start to take a little longer to warm up. And so doing these movements in the morning is my favorite thing to do, just to get the blood flowing. And so, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's when I like to do my moves too. And some of yours, like what you just mentioned, is so key for learning to get up and down. But also, if you do that 10 times on each side and tell me you're not winded and tell me your whole body doesn't feel like it just got a workout, then you're more of a person than I am. Because every time I do that move, more than 3 to 5 times on each side, I'm like, oh, I am feeling this. So it's great.
Exactly. And taking some of those movements, you can take one movement and have a different intention with it, right? It's all like, you hear that a lot. Like, the intention is so huge with how we do things. And so you can have a same movement that is, more of a mobility, meditation type flow where you're just going back and forth nice and easy, or you can really turn it into more of a aggressive, kind of intense workout. So it's just nice, the variety with all these different movements in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, and like you said, things start like slowing down in your 30s. Wait till you're 40, because I just turned 40 last year, and so yeah, it's like the best thing to do in the morning to set your day is like start this form of natural movement. It doesn't have to be this go out and do a HIIT training class or a CrossFit class or whatever. Just get up and start doing these natural joint moves, these rolls, the hip mobility. And it's like the rest of the day you're free and clear. You just feel like I don't have any stagnation. I've got my lymph flowing. I've got my muscles all warmed up for the day. And then you can go do some heavier stuff. But even this works great as like just natural movement that we should do every day.
I literally feel when I do my morning routines and movements, I like am visualizing the cobwebs just falling off me. Like in the morning, it's like it literally is that type of feeling. And then also working in breathing too. I was fortunate enough, like breathing's always been, you hear a lot about breathing and just being around sports a lot and different things. And I didn't start actually focusing on my breath and implementing it into my daily life and jiu-jitsu until I started training with, so his name's Chrome Gracie. The Gracie family are kind of like the ones that created Brazilian Jiu Jitsu and spread it around the world. It's like the most amazing martial arts family ever. That's like a whole nother podcast. You can learn way more on if you just Google or YouTube Gracie family. But Chrome Gracie is the son of Hickson Gracie, who's like the guy that got me and so many other people into jiu-jitsu in the first place. He's like this amazing instructor, and he was a fighter and undefeated, whatever, just really good. And so I trained with him in Los Angeles a couple years back, and that's where I got my purple belt, and I'm a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu now. Just FYI, there's 5 belts, okay? As an adult, it's white, blue, purple, brown, and then your black belt. Those are the general belts. And so I got my purple belt from Chrome, and he was all about breathing. He would, breathe before and after class, and so that's where, and it looks cool, it feels really good, and so that's where I started kind of implementing that into all my movements, and it's an amazing addition to these movements as well.
Yeah, can you show kind of like one of your favorite types of breath work that you would do in a class?
Yeah, so, well, it's kind of, okay. It's all about breathing. The way I've been taught, there's so many different breathing techniques, and I'm sure it relates to yoga movements, and fire breath, I think is might be the actual term. I don't know, I haven't studied it that much. I'm just going based on my jiu-jitsu route and what I learned there, right? So the way I've been taught is you want to breathe from your belly and your diaphragm versus your chest, right? I've heard a lot about chest, everything, and like a lot of negative emotions, fear. Like when you think about when you get scared, it's like it's all in your chest, okay? So we want to focus on breathing from our diaphragm and our belly, and when we do that, it's breathing from on a horizontal line. I don't want to go into too much, but just what it looks like is and you can start, like, as you gain more control of your diaphragm, you can start massaging the diaphragm and doing different things, but it's like that. So that's what I'm focusing on. And you want to, like, if you try it right now, you want to try to draw. Don't even worry about your inhale. Your body's going to inhale naturally. Just focus on your exhale and try to draw your belly button in. You want to pull it in as you exhale, but keep everything on a horizontal line. Right, so everything's on a horizontal line. We're not breathing up. It's all Here, so try to draw your belly button in, and yeah, exactly. You have your hand on your belly. And I like to do short breaths first, so it's like, and then as you start gaining more control, you can go faster. So once I started doing this, I realized I would do it in for jiu-jitsu first, just to be able to have more stamina, more energy, more endurance. But then when I go to work, when I'm having an uncomfortable conversation, when I'm getting ready for this podcast, which I've never done before, it's like the breathing, like at the end of the day, all we have is our breath. So might as well learn how to use it for our benefit, right? Instead of just taking it for granted. Yeah.
No, for sure. I think I've heard that breath coined as like almost coffee breath, because like if you don't want to have a cup of coffee, you can do that kind of what you said, fire breathing, or that quick breath, and it almost builds your energy for what you're about to do. So I think at one point I'd heard somebody call it like coffee breathing, because it's like having coffee. So
yeah. Yeah, no, literally, that's a really good term. I'm going to start using that, because I will do that sometimes if I forgot to make a cup of coffee, or I didn't have time to make a cup as I'm going to work, or whatever the case may be. On my drive to the office, I'll be doing that breathing to literally replace the cup of coffee. And then not only can you use the quick breathing to waking the body up, but also if you're really nervous or you're looking to calm things down, that's when you start doing the deeper breathing to just relax everything. And so you can use it hand in hand, you know?
And I would assume that the quick breath, I mean, you can really feel your core going in and out, so it must be a bit of core work. There's so much core when it comes to this Jiu Jitsu Flo. What's another core exercise you can show us? I mean, you have so many, but and pretty much every exercise I've done with you, at some point you feel your core, which I love. So anybody working on their core, they really want to focus on this type of movement. But what's some of your favorites?
So, well, with the breathing, huge core exercise, and don't quote me on this, but I believe I've heard it's one of a really good way to work your transverse abdominis, like in your lower back. Being able to draw the belly button in is a great way to do that. And so, but overall, it's an amazing core workout. As far as jiu-jitsu goes, a lot of jiu-jitsu takes place on the ground. It doesn't all take place on the ground. It's a misconception that jiu-jitsu is only ground fighting. Like, there's a ton of stand-up techniques. Everything starts on standing. So, ton of stand-up, situations and techniques. But a lot of it does have to do on the ground. So, being able to move effectively is really important, and you have to engage your core. However, there are also ways to move where you don't have to engage your core as much. But I won't go down that tangent because you're asking about core workouts. So really happy if I'm going off track here. But to answer your question directly, a really nice core exercise would be a movement so when we're on our back, this is called the bottom mount position, okay? And what we're going to do is, it's called a Kimura sit-up, all right? Now, the Kimura it's actually a shoulder lock, right? It's an attack, but this is what the movement looks like. So I'll do it first, and then you'll see. So, all right, now I'm going back and forth. Okay, so, beautiful. Yep, you're touching, and what you can do now, that's awesome. And that's a normal, it's a normal crunch, right? This isn't anything new, right? But how it applies in jiu-jitsu, okay, we have, I don't want to pull out the dummy, but should I pull out the dummy? Should I do it? No.
Walter. Is it Walter?
Should I get Walter? Okay, yeah. This is Walter. He's been my COVID friend. All right, so in Jiu-Jitsu, let's see if he cooperates. Okay.
So when you get in terms of like somebody is attacking you too, they come down on you, and this is like a move you would use.
Exactly, right. So one of the beautiful things about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is it's giving people the ability to not just defend themselves on the bottom, but actually go into attacks, okay? And you're not having to use strength and muscle when a lot of times that's not going to work, okay? So this position here is called a closed guard. My feet or my legs are wrapped around my opponents, and my legs are locked, okay? They're closed. This is a closed guard, all right? A Kimura is a shoulder lock on my opponent. What it looks like is I'm taking the arm, I'm sitting up, I'm wrapping around, okay? And I'm here. And this is a shoulder lock, where if they don't tap, it's gonna literally rip their shoulder out of the socket, okay? Right here. I don't know out of the socket, but it's painful, right? We're here, all right? And back. So that's what the technique looks like. We sit up, and we go for a shoulder lock, okay? Now, thank you, Walter.
Thanks, Walter.
How that applies in a solo movement drill. We're in a closed guard, okay? We open our legs, plant them on the ground. The difference here, we're going to use efficiency. We want to be able to sit up as efficient as possible. So if we're going to the right, we're going to have our right elbow on the ground. When we sit up and touch left elbow to right knee. Good. Yep. But now, Jodelle, what I want you to do as you're transitioning, I want you to come back to a closed guard. Yep. Then open up and sit up. There you go.
Now, do you keep your elbow down every time?
Yes, because this is it's used as a post to help us sit up. Good. That's it. And
Not your core, not so much.
it's a good oblique. Yeah, it's a good core workout. Another one. Right. Another one, I won't use Walter for this, just show the movement, but this is a scissoring movement. And so, closed guard, open guard. So what I'm going to do, it's a little more advanced, but I'm going to take my right leg, use my hands on the ground, and I'm going to switch my legs, okay? So my right leg is over my left. Bear with me. Beautiful. Now, we're going to take this bottom leg, we're going to take the bottom leg, swing it all the way through, and switch. Yeah, but what we want to try to do is keep our bottom leg off the ground. Yes. So our legs are staying off the ground the whole time.
Ooh, I like that.
Right there. And you can swing that bottom leg through. And And you can ideally try to look forward the whole time. So your upper body is staying forward, and we're here. Nice. Beautiful. And so this has an application to Jiu-Jitsu in the sense that trying to keep distance. And so, but that's for another class you can go into. You gotta come take a Jiu-Jitsu class.
It's definitely core work for sure. And, functional. I felt my hips moving in variations that you don't use throughout the day, but we should. We're just walking in one plane of motion mostly. We need to do some side-to-side movements. We need to get a good base of support and stuff like that. So
Definitely.
Teach a lot of that in your class. Now, how do you feel like being an athlete and doing lots of different forms of exercise and then more, you now do relatively this, right? This is your main workout. How does it compare with regard to how your fitness has been throughout your life? Like, how has this improved you?
I feel the most limber, and another team sport. So I played, basically a quick background of what I've done. Like, starting at the age of 3, I started doing gymnastics. I competed in gymnastics seriously. Like, it was a huge part of my life until I was 12, I think. But I was also playing like baseball and basketball, but gymnastics was the main focus. I was there like 20 plus hours a week. Like, it was a big part of my life. Then I got into the team sports, baseball and basketball. And at that time, baseball, basketball, you don't focus on stretching as much, right? You kind of take it for granted, unless you're on a really good team that they're putting you through that type of regimen. You're a general high school basketball team, or I went to a NAIA basketball for college, so we didn't have like all these high level personal trainers, and we weren't doing a ton of stretching. Bottom line, so I got really stiff, but I got muscular, and that was great. But I just completely forgot about and took for granted mobility side of things. So I think that's one thing that jiu-jitsu has reminded me of, is in order to be successful and not get injured, which unfortunately I've had a lot of injuries, which has pushed me towards the solo movements as well. But it really just helps with strength and mobility, and you can't forget either or. So that's one of the big benefits.
And I feel like there's a big element of mindfulness in it too. I mean, when you were teaching me through a little online training we did before this, I couldn't think of anything else. Like, I really had to focus on what you were saying in order for me to break down the movement, because you break it down in your videos really easily, like really great, so everybody can do each piece. But because of that, I feel like it's really mindful too. Whereas you can go into the gym and just bang out some biceps, but you can be thinking about your grocery list and stuff like that. But this you really have to be mindful of, and I think there's a lot of power in putting your mind into your muscle. Yeah?
100%. 100%. I think that's another reason why people that actually go train Brazilian Jiu Jitsu get so intrigued with it and addicted to it. Because it is so cerebral, and you have to be focused on the technique, because the slightest adjustment or lack of makes the biggest difference. And so you really, in order to get the most out of each movement or each class, you do have to be fully engaged. A lot of people will call jiu-jitsu is kind of like human chess, and it's because, and then you also see this huge, like, you look at memes and just pictures online all the time. It's like the most innocent, dorky looking person is a straight assassin. Like, they're killers, because jiu-jitsu provides that. It's not about the strength and the just like raw, brute athleticism or shit. Like, that obviously will help, but also hinders you, because then you don't learn the minute details of techniques that can make the biggest difference in the world. So it's super cerebral, and you do have to stay really focused, which is awesome.
So going back to the self-defense aspect, so let's say I'm, in the morning, like I said, I'm walking early, it's dark out, there's not the stitch of light out where I'm walking. And it's, of course, I don't think I'm that attractive wearing an altitude mask, but regardless, I'm a female by myself. And so what would I do? What was the first thing I would do if I had some jiu-jitsu training or these kind of movements, if somebody came at me?
Okay, so I would say the biggest thing jiu-jitsu has given me is just a confidence and an awareness, or the confidence enough to be aware of your surroundings, that have saved me from getting into so many different altercations because of the confidence that I feel inside. And that confidence isn't just that I can defend myself, but it's the confidence that you walk around with naturally that other people can sense in you, right? So I've seen people's demeanor change, like just go from night and day to where they walk into the gym and you can just see they're just beat down. They have no confidence. They have maybe been bullied their whole lives, or teenagers are getting bullied now. And it just, for somebody that's looking to prey on people, you can just sense it, like they're the perfect target. They come in and start training, and you build them up, and you just start learning, and 6 months later, it's literally a different person walking through the door. And we sense things. Everybody has energy. So just having that energy naturally a predator is gonna sense that and just not want to come near you, right? Or it'll make it less likely, right? So that's number one, okay? However, that's not gonna, it's not like this huge superpower that's gonna stop people from messing with you. Obviously, things can still happen, but that is a huge deterrent towards things happening in general. Just your energy and the confidence that you build through this daily practice. Now, if something does come up, there's no, it's hard to say, what do you do, right? Because there's so many different scenarios that could come up. If you have an open space, it's all run, turn around and run, right? You want to maintain distance, right? So jiu-jitsu and most martial arts, it's all about controlling distance. Okay, so we went through this with our lesson, being able to move properly standing up. And you always want to be on balance, okay? So if somebody is coming at you from the front, all right, you want to make sure that there's distance, okay? And that if they're coming too close to you, that you have some type of frame, right, to maintain that distance, and that you can move while keeping somebody in front of you, right, just so you can see. You know what I mean? It's hard to go.
You showed me that box move, and if you do that really fast too, that's a really good cardio workout. But what you're saying is you're also teaching your body how to make that distance happen between you and the attacker.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of times when I felt this. If I see a threat, I feel a threat. You kind of freeze up, right? You hear the fight or flight, but in reality, there's also the freeze, right. And I felt that so many times in my life where it's just oh my God, I don't know what to do. And you're literally frozen. So being able to train your body to have that muscle memory to where maybe you're not thinking about it, but you're naturally moving and knowing how to keep a little distance can be really helpful. And just like the movement that we went over as far as the walking goes, it's we walk in different directions, right? Forward, back, side to side. So when we walk, we want to have a balanced stance where we can stay on balance throughout our movements. Okay? Once we are nervous, scared, and we cross our legs, for example, we're off balance. Just the slightest tap is going to push us, we're going to fall over, right? But that applies if you sense something, you're running in the morning, whatever, it's dark, or at night, and you sense a threat, you get scared, and you start to walk backwards, and you trip over yourself and fall down, right? You can hurt yourself and just become way more vulnerable than you were a couple seconds ago, That then goes into the whole, how do you fall down properly, right? But that's another...
Let's go there, because that's another aspect of functional fitness is we need to be able to get down onto the floor safely and get up off of the floor in case of a fall, because as we age, there is more chance of a fall. or if you are just more lethargic because you did a hard workout. I always tell my students when they're off balance, when they're doing lots of different moves, I'm like, the reason why you're having more trouble is we've been doing these for a while, so you're starting to fatigue, those muscles fatigue, and you start to fall over. So, we need to learn, especially with, you get into your elderly population where we have broken hips because of falls, there's ways of preventing this. I teach a class called Silver Sneakers, which is like, 55 and older group, and I want to keep them into their hundreds of years feeling like they can get down and get up off the floor. So maybe you could demonstrate that too.
Yeah, of course. So this really, it's called a break fall. All right, it's a technique that is taught in every jiu-jitsu class. Like one of the very first movements that we learn, because you're right, you need to learn how to fall. At any age, if you watch babies, like they know how to do it properly, right? They know how to stand up properly. My 1-year-old niece knows how to do a technical stand-up better than my uncle, or excuse me, better than my brother, right? And so like, as we get older, we become more inefficient with our body movement. So, learning how to fall. This is just one version where if we're falling backwards, it's a great. It's a great thing to think about. So I'll do it first and then I'll break it down. Okay. So this is what it looks like. All right. Now, things to think about when you fall. You want to make sure that your head is safe. We want to protect our head. Right. So when we fall backwards, we want to make sure our chin is tucked. Okay. So when we go down, our head stays off the ground. If we don't keep our chin tucked and we fall down, our head's going to bang against the floor, and that causes issues, right? So that's the main point. The second is we can slap our hands on the floor lightly, especially if like you're on wood or you're outside on the cement. You're not going to slap your hands hard, but it does help brace the fall on your back a little bit. Over here. And you just go like, perfect, okay? That's the second point. The third is our feet and legs stay out in front of us. Because in a self-defense setting, right, if we fall down or we trip and fall and there's a threat in front of us, when we fall down, if our legs come over our head, there's nothing in front of us stopping an attacker or a opponent or a partner, whatever it is, to keep coming forward and cause harm, or whatever the case may be. So when we fall down, we need to engage our core and keep our feet out in front. All right? It's all about creating distance, okay? And then we can come up, and I was going over with you, but there's so many different ways to stand up. Let's just, here, Jodelle, which one do you want to do?
I like the one where we did on the one knee.
Off the one knee? Okay. All right. So this is one that we're doing. So we fall down, we come up. Okay. We tuck one foot. We come forward. We open up and stand up. All right. And then so these functional movements that help in real life if you fall down, right? Because you also fall forward, you fall to the side. This is just addressing when you fall backwards. But we also need to be able to stand up properly. So, down, we come up, and we stand. There you go. But it really helps with the functional side of things. I work with clients that are a little older, and we're doing this more for physical therapy, right? So as you get older, things start to happen where it's not as easy for you to stand up however you want without thinking about it. You really have to start breaking down the movements and figuring out what is the most efficient way for me to stand up, right?
Yeah, and again, those moves are such a good total body workout because you can feel it in all parts of your body the whole time you're doing it, and yet it's functional at the same time. So that's what I love it. Just keep your head off the ground, right? When you're laying down, just
a movement that we do a lot is to warm up our neck, is just lifting your head off the ground. And, we do generally like 3 different movements or 4, a couple different ones, but, chin to chest, looking, keeping your head off the ground, then going right to left, good, and then looking up at the ceiling and going ear to shoulder, right, and you notice you do 30, what's that?
That's so powerful, like who works their neck, like these are muscles too that we need to work, so that's great.
Exactly, it's so important, your neck muscles, but a lot of these little things we take for granted because they just work. They work, and you don't think about it. But when you have certain injuries or just as you blossom throughout life, things start to happen, and you got to start paying attention to those little things. So.
Yes, absolutely. So this has been really informative. I hope people will check out your work because I really think that things are going to explode for you as far as this kind of movement, and I really feel like people are going to get benefits from not just lifting weights or not just taking HIIT classes or going balls to the walls whenever you're working out, but really working on the functionality of your moves and also supporting your body both with self-confidence and also with efficiency and mobility. And so as far as what your plans are, how can people work with you, or what do you offer classes where you are, or how can people find you?
So right now we're doing everything online. I mean, so I'm in California. Things are starting to open up a little bit, but generally everything's still being done online. So my YouTube, basically everything Jiu Jitsu Flo, YouTube. I'm just putting out a ton of follow along workouts that you can check out there. If you want to do one-on-one privates with me, you can email me. My website, jiu-jitsuflo.com, you can email me there, or on any of Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, any of the social media platforms, and we can go through it. Hopefully, I'm working on putting a curriculum together so that people can teach kind of the different movements that I've put together. And again, these are all movements based on jiu-jitsu techniques. So, I would love for everybody to just go train jiu-jitsu. Like when gyms open back up, go train jiu-jitsu. It's going to change your life. But in reality, I know not everybody is interested in doing that. So, I hope these movements will help share and spread the benefits that jiu-jitsu has had for me and so many other people, but in an individual manner. And yeah, I don't know. That's the goal.
That's awesome. No, I'm super excited. I'll put all of the links to your website and everything in there, and your YouTube channel, so people can check out the show notes for that. And go ahead and take them through just kind of a quick flow that they can do and check it out. And of course, there's a ton more flows you can try on his YouTube channel, so be sure to go there too. But let's go through that and see and demonstrate that a little bit. I think it'll be really fun.
Sure. So this will be a good. Once you start learning the movements, the awesome thing about it is you can just throw on your own music, just kind of let the mind go and just move, right? And that's a lot of times where I put these different movements together. It's just moving, and I'm like, oh, that goes well together. That's nice. So that's what I want is teach all these different movements, and then give you the ability to be able to put your own flows together, right? So let's just do this. Let's do it. This is a hollow body roll, right? This is a good one. You're gonna do it. Okay. You want to keep your chin tucked, same concept, and we're just rolling. You also want to keep your knees to your chest as you roll. You'll notice the further away your chest goes from your knees, the more you're going to engage your core. Okay? So now, this is movement we did earlier. We're going to do a hollow body roll into a forward kneel. Yes, good. Now let's go back into a hollow body roll. Good. Yep, there you go. Switch sides, good. And you go back and forth. Good. Nice. As you come up, try to drive your hips forward. Yes. Now let's stand all the way up. So here, open up, stand. Now you can do either. We can do the break fall that we did or reverse mechanic. Back into a whole body roll. We do the other side. Nice. Good. Okay, and then you go back and forth. And then you mix in the break fall. Beautiful. Yep. Good. Nice. And then we just roll. And you go back and forth. And it's just, it's like you start to get a little sweaty just from a couple of minutes. And
my heart is beating right now, so yeah.
Right? So if you just take those 3 movements or whatever that we just did, throw on a playlist and just combine them in different ways, however you want, for 10 minutes, it's a really good workout and a really nice way to just kind of get away.
That's so cool. So Ari, I have one final question for you. You being kind of a health advocate and into health and fitness, tell us like maybe your top 5 tips that you do every day to stay healthy.
My morning routine is really important to me. So first thing I try to do when I wake up is have water. I like to hydrate. Yeah. So I try to have lemon water first thing in the morning. And I also like to write. I'll write a little bit or read, one of the two. Move, get my movements, breathing, and community, talking to somebody, just connecting with somebody, friend, family, coworker, whoever it is, but try to have an actual conversation to connect.
That's so important. Our tribe is so important, so that's great.
Definitely.
Well, Ari, this has been fun. Thank you so much for teaching me all of these wonderful moves, and I can't wait to incorporate them into my classes and hopefully do more training with you, because I'm thinking I want to take some Jiu Jitsu too. So I'm kind of
yeah. Well, thank you. It was my pleasure. I really appreciate you having me. It was awesome. Awesome experience.
Check out Jiu Jitsu Flo on YouTube and check out jiu-jitsuflo.com. And I think you're really going to enjoy his work. And catch you on the flip side. Bye.
Sounds good.
Spend a lot of time in our life these days on Zoom or on FaceTime or on a computer. And you really have to dial in that blue light exposure if you find that you are someone who is chronically on a device. And that's why I recommend the daylight blockers from Swanwick Sleep. I use them in many of my podcasts, and I use them anytime I'm on a Zoom that's kind of in the midst of the day when it's really bright outside already and my screen is bright. I only want so much blue light during the day, and mostly I get that from the sun. I don't want any extra from my computer. So if you really want to dial in your sleep at night, get your circadian rhythm and your blue light exposure in the day dialed in. Then after the sun goes down, if you're still on Zoom, which you got to go outside at some point and get some grounding if you're on that device so much, but get their nighttime blockers so that at least if you're on that Zoom call after the sun goes down, you can still release melatonin and sleep well. So if that's you, if you're looking for those kind of products to help dial in that circadian rhythm, dial in your sleep at night, wake up refreshed so you can do those Zoom meetings all over again, make sure you visit swanwicksleep.com and use my code GETFIT10. Okay, that's GETFIT 10, the number 10, and enter that for 10% off your pair of day blockers or nighttime blue blockers.